here we are, podcast number 3, CueSports International, and this is April 17th, 2014, 2 days after tax day, if any of us care. Most pool players don't have to worry about it, I guess. But and this is our standard CueSports International podcast. We got a special guest. He's in the special category. Don Owen, from the infamous character of one of the founders of OB Cues, and he's involved in quite a few other things in pool. It has been for, like, you've been around pool almost as long as I have. Like,
probably longer.
well, I don't know. Well, it takes you longer to get better. I understand that. But I mean, you invented that game 21. Isn't that the one you patented? Wasn't that the game you patented? You did
You
that.
invented,
No.
You invented blackjack?
No. It's a pool game that he. It's
Well,
the weirdest
years
thing.
ago, I called it straight ball because it was similar to straight pool, similar to six pocket. And then I developed Pool 300 recently.
Yeah, but the one that when's the one you patented? What year did you patent that? 79?
No, 80, 85, 86.
Okay, well, so
somewhere
that's a
along
long time
there,
ago to be a patent, because you went to school with Dick Lane and
Yes.
weren't you in
Oklahoma University.
Tulsa?
No.
Oklahoma City?
Norman, Oklahoma City.
Norman? Okay, yeah, okay. So you've been around the block a couple of times. You look like it too. No, that's oh well. And this is Ozzy. He really doesn't say much. Doesn't do much either, but that's okay. He's replacing me. He doesn't have to do much.
You can't say something nice, don't say anything at all.
But anyhow, we want to welcome Don because he's in town on a separate project, and he's going to talk to us for a couple minutes, tell us what he's up to and what's going on, and then we'll kick him out and we'll get on to the real stuff. Away you go, sir. Hi, I'm Don Owen.
Thanks, Mark. I'm Don Owen, and as Mark said, I've been involved in pool for many, many years. I started playing when I started at college. Then I very quickly, after that, or along the way, met Dick Lane, became good friends with Dick Lane.
A lot of people may not know who Dick Lane is, but
Okay.
anybody that plays straight pool sure as hell knows who he is.
Dick Lane was one of the great straight pool players of the 70s and 80s along there.
He was one of the founders of Clicks, too.
Yes, he was one of the founders of Clicks. But along the way, I've always been an avid amateur player, not a very good player, but certainly loved the game. And almost 10 years ago now, Royce Bunnell and I started OB Cues together. I'm the O in OB Cues. More recently, my daughter and my wife and I formed a partnership to buy an ongoing business pool hall in Oklahoma City, or actually Midwest City, right there by Tinker Air Force Base. And so, as you can see, I'm involved in pool.
And that's Jamaica Joe's?
Jamaica Joe's, that's
You
right.
can plug it. It's
Oh,
all
I
right.
forgot about that. Yeah, Jamaica Joe's. We have good equipment, good food, good drinks. So if you're in Oklahoma City, be sure and go to Jamaica Joe's. The reason they invited me to talk on this little podcast was to talk about American rotation and what we have going there and what Joe Tucker started, actually. I was introduced to that idea at the Super Billiards Expo, not this year, but last year. Mark Griffin cornered me and said, Don, Joe Tucker's come up with something good. And he explained it to me, and very quickly I realized it was good. There's so many good things about it as compared to other ways of playing organized pool. There's, it's individual competition rather than teams. It's scratch rather than handicapped. It's short seasons rather than long seasons. Typically, we schedule our own match times. In other words, you don't have a set evening or any kind of schedule you have to meet, so you can talk to your opponent and schedule your own match time. And it's over in 7 weeks of round-robin play. Then you have a playoff for the local group, and then a few of those players get to go to a national event. And it's just such a good format that Mark and Joe formed a company, and I begged them to let me get involved, and they did. They let me get involved in it, and I just think it's a great thing.
It is a great concept because it's self-supporting, and it can do nothing but grow. It's
Yeah.
got some traction problems right now, but we're kind of amazed that the stronger players don't support it like they should when this is the format for them because they can figure out how they measure on a national scale without traveling all over the place. You can do it in your backyard.
Yeah.
It doesn't cost you. It's such a great format.
Yeah. So anyway, we encourage you guys to get involved with American rotation. There's players of a lot of skill levels that are playing. Some of them don't have much of a chance, like me. I'm playing in one of the groups, but it's such a good way to play pool, and it's such a clean game. The American rotation game itself is just a variation on the old 15-ball rotation game. You have to hit the lowest number ball on the table, and whatever you make counts. There's a special way of keeping score, and we play call shot, call save, and so it's a little bit different way of playing pool, but it's really a nice game and really a nice format. So that's why I'm here, is to push this idea, get you guys to think about getting involved with, and we call it the American Billiard Club, short ABC, and the American Billiard Club runs the American Rotation Championship Series.
And I will say, I played a session, and it's by far the most fun game I've ever played. I really like the game. It teaches you patterns, teaches you kicking.
Safety play.
And you always have an opportunity at the table. Nobody's going to run the set out on you because every other rack you get to break, and you get ball in hand after your break. So you have lots of offensive chances. I love the game. I had a group in Newport News when I was there. When I moved here, there is no group here right now, but I look forward to the day when we have a group here.
I think
too,
they'll get one going here.
so I can play again.
Because
Fantastic game.
Joe Tucker's made a couple of changes. It used to be 4 rooms, and they each have 8 players. You can only have 8 players in each room, but it was too hard to coordinate 4 rooms into one unit, so they're going to do it more 2 rooms, and then you have your playoffs. Then they go to the regionals. The winners of that go to the nationals, and you're paid every step of the way. So all you do is
each season has a payback at the regional level and then at the national levels, and that happens, we hope, at least 5 times a year, perhaps even 6 times a year. We'll have a nice purse paid out to the players.
Yeah, and those numbers got pretty big. If we got 512 players, which was 32 rooms at 8, maybe 64 players at 8. I think it came out to $600,000 in the total prize money if you did it 6 times a year.
Yeah, for the whole year.
I mean, the numbers get real big, and that's without any sponsorship.
That's $25 a week.
Yeah.
Per match,
Right.
which really is insignificant in my opinion. But
you get the opportunity to play the best players in your area if those are the people that support it and join it. And to that degree, it hasn't been. You still get some pretty strong players, but you get some mediocre players that are using it as a tool to learn. And this is the opportunity. If you get somebody that wants to get better, this is the best opportunity in the world. It's like gambling without gambling.
Yeah, the group that I'm playing in Dallas has one master level player in BCA, but he's by far not a pro, and he's the strongest player in our group. So we're having fun without having to face the competition of a pro player. But the whole idea was to attract those pro players into this organization, and then when we do that, we'll build lower levels for the other people to play in.
Yeah, I think it's a great foundation for the pool in the U.S. I mean, I've said it could possibly grow into some type of standing rating type of thing, maybe a pro tour. He told me not to say that, but I don't listen to him. But I mean, it's not saying that it would, but it has the potential. I could see how it could aim that way. Because we have to, you go the way the inertia takes you. It's just the way.
And I would like to compliment Joe Tucker on developing this concept. I think it's a great concept.
Well, it didn't happen overnight. Joe and I have been talking for 4 years before this one came across the road.
It takes you guys a long time to make a decision.
Boy, don't we're slow. We're out here in Vegas heat. Your brain gets fried.
Well, Don,
you're really going to have that problem too, aren't you? Fried eggs.
No, I have a hat. Don, we appreciate you coming in and talking, and look forward to working with you in the future and growing the American Billiard Club.
I appreciate the opportunity to talk.
And Don's really good for pool. We need another 100 to him because, I mean, he's in all phases, from the player aspect to he started a league back in Oklahoma City 25 years ago. Yeah. And he's just and he shows that you can play pool even if you're no good. I mean, for a long time. He's actually the reigning super seniors.
Super seniors. Now, I didn't get in there because I'm old. I got into it because it says super, and I thought that must be me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Or super old. One or the other.
So, anyhow, cool. Thanks for coming by.
Thanks a lot, Don.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, Mark, I guess we'll talk a little industry news.
Industry news. Is there some? Yeah, there's always interesting stuff. You know, we know some of it we don't. We speculate. We'll create news. We'll be like Fox News, or we'll create it.
You've been doing that for years, haven't you?
Oh no. No, I mean, there's a lot of things. We're busier than heck. We're getting ready for our event. You know, the 38th annual BCA Pool League, now USA Pool League / USA Pool League Championship, held at the Rio, and the Rio is still a pretty good step up from where we were. You know, it's growing pains. We've changed some things from last year. We've got more bar tables coming in, so there's more tables available for 24-hour practice because we've gone to green fees. So literally, if you were to play in one of the singles events and your green fees are $25, you literally could play 9 days of pool, 24 hours a day, except for maybe 1 or 2 days, for $25. Was that like 12 cents an hour? I don't know. But it's the world's largest tournament as far as number of tables.
So before we get into the BCA Pool League CSI plug, I thought we'd talk about just some general stuff going on around the industry. So
yeah,
the first thing on the docket that I noticed when browsing AZ Billiards is Darren Appleton was just voted the EPBF Player of the Year.
That's the
2013.
European Tour. Yeah, he's you know, I was watching. I mean, Darren. We went to a few tournaments there, and he just didn't seem to get there. You know, he was struggling on the world's scene. But he just shows up. Now I don't know. I know he's part of the Make It Happen that AccuStats is doing. I didn't tune in today. But
Beat Shane yesterday, right?
I don't know.
Yeah,
it was pretty tough.
I think
when
I saw
quit.
it
It was 6-6.
I think he beat him 9-6, 11-6, whatever.
You know, these guys, they make it look pretty simple at times.
Yep. But in any event, congratulations to Darren. Well deserved.
Well, he's getting married in November too. You know, to Angie. So he's remodeling the house. Got a new diamond put in there. Yeah, he's doing good. But he works. He practices a lot. He stays in constant action. You read his Facebook stuff, and he's always going here to go do something and go there to do something. And he stays.
That seems to be a common denominator among the guys
the elite.
that consistently get there.
Yeah. Well, that's another reason why a lot of the American players just are not capable of playing on the world scene. They're not in constant play. You know, you have to be tested by fire. You know? So.
All right, and also what I noticed, Ralph Souquet, he won the Dynamic Billiard North Cyprus Open with a 9-4 win over Carl Boyce.
And that's one of the EPBF's events, I believe.
Now Ralph hasn't made a whole lot of noise lately,
no,
but
he hasn't.
But he's
still there, isn't he?
He's still there. He won't go away. He shows up. He wins. He's from what I understand, still an incredible force over in Europe.
I would have to say so. He's got a resume that won't quit. He's so. Oh, I don't know how to say it.
I like his hairstyle.
I don't. Yeah, you would. He is so German in the way he approaches the game. I don't know. You know, no smile, no just this is business. I mean, the results are great. Can be a little hard to watch at times. I think pool players should have a little. I wish we had 10 Keith McCreadys. See, that's what I really wish. But I mean, I'm not taking anything away from the modern players, but some of them are just a little too rigid.
I like his game. I think he's a fantastic player. I think
he doesn't make mistakes. You know, he's
pure gentleman.
Oh yeah,
and
absolutely.
He's going to be in our invitational.
Yep.
And we're looking forward to it.
Yeah, and he's good for the game, and he'll reach out to people and things like that.
Yep. Yeah. And third bullet point, which you can see on the screen, I thought we'd briefly talk about. Normally, we don't get into talking about other entities, events, or anything, but I think this one might have some industry implications, so to speak, and that's the U.S. Open 9-ball, the format change that they announced recently. been talked about a lot online.
Yeah,
but
it's.
they were 256 players since I can remember.
But they've only filled up one time in the last
Well,
4, 5,
yeah,
6 years,
but
which is, it's tough to fill 256. I mean,
the format was 256, $500 entry fee. And in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, that event's whole prestige and uniqueness was the fact that you could compete with the best players from all around the world
Yep.
for $500.
Correct.
And there are a lot of people, particularly people that live on the East Coast, that it's doable. They can pay $500 and come down and spend 5 to 6 to 7 days. And it's kind of a thrill for them. But recently they announced a format change. It's now going to be limited to $128, $1,000 entry
Yep.
fee. That's a lot different.
It's
a lot different.
It is a lot different.
And to me, I'm not here to say whether it's right or wrong. That time will tell that. But the implication seems to be, and we're seeing it industry-wide, is events are going to start shrinking because of, and this is Ozzy Reynolds' opinion, increased demand from the players to get more and more money, but also the cost, just the pure cost to hold an event, paying for the venue, paying for the tables to get shipped back and forth. Just the cost eats you alive. And we even saw that at the expo with taxes, of all things that came
Boy,
up.
did Alan Hopkins get beat up out there.
I mean, the
Whoa.
New Jersey, basically, it seems like they are running them out of the state,
Yeah.
and you can't do business.
Yeah.
But
I see, I mean, I can understand a lot of the reasons why Barry, and you know, Barry's got his pluses and his minuses, but you got to give credit to the stubborn old guy. He's been there 39 years now. I think he's 1 or 2 years ahead of us.
I'm not even that old. You're asking the wrong person.
What, don't you read? Can't you count? But he had venue issues, and everybody has venue issues. We have them all the time. We can find a venue, but then the ceiling's 80 feet in the air, and you can't hang lights. I mean, there's so many things that can go wrong with putting on an event, and
Or you can hang them for $800 a piece.
Oh yeah, you know, and so he had to make an event that would fit within the confines of the building, and he's back at the old. It used to be at the Holiday, now it's the Marriott. Years ago, they used to have the tournament in this venue, and he's down to, I think he's down to 9 tables, cut it basically in half.
I think so, yep.
And it's much more manageable. I think he's, in a lot of ways, I think he's the right way to go. But I share your concerns. $1,000 is just a pretty high ticket for a guy that just wants to say, hey, let me see how I can do. Has no chance of winning, and he knows he has no chance of winning. He just wants to take a flyer. And you know, $500, it's cool. $1,000, you know, nobody wants to be known as a sucker. And you're almost in that category of like, what the hell are you thinking? You know, so I wish it the best because it is an institution. But I think that this, combined with this, they're doing the 16-man, $2,000 buy-in race to 21 9-ball, rack your own on bar table, which is the opposite side of the spectrum. You know, it's pushing the pros, even though they don't have the best players. They have some good players. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say there's any dogs in there, but you don't have the Shanes or the Darrens, and because I think they had prior commitments. But it's a $2,000 shootout on bar tables. I actually don't know if it's winner breaks or alternating breaks. But and no added money, which is, you know, added money. I don't know of another sport that has added money. Pool players get all hung up on added money, but I don't see it in. The only time you ever see added money is if you have sponsorship, like golf, tennis, you know, things like that. It's not. The location doesn't put up the money like pools. Pools is kind of an oddball industry, and it in so many ways it should be about the, especially on the amateur side, it should be about the event, the socializing, you know, the efforts to get better rather than just about money, money, money.
Well, I think it is. That's why on an amateur level, I think advertising added money has little value.
Yeah. It's becoming more and more little. Does that make sense? More and more littler and littler value.
It's a Griffinism.
Yeah, we got them. So I don't know. It's all interesting, but the world is changing. The economy sucks a little bit still. Ozzy's right on the mark as far as expenses. We hear it all the time. I mean, no, they can't come to Vegas because it's just too expensive to come to Vegas. Rooms aren't $20 a night anymore. Breakfast's not $4.99. You know, it's things are pretty expensive. So the dynamics are changing. That's all. Just the only thing that changes, or the only thing that's constant, is change. You know.
I am interested to see how all that works out. And
Yeah.
here's the thing, the event will probably be a huge success. It'll probably fill. I hope it fills.
We all do.
I hope Barry and everybody the best with that tournament, and I'd like to see it be successful well into the future. The thing that I wonder about, not so much concern, but wonder is for those players that will no longer be able to compete, what do they now look forward to every year? Where will they go?
Yeah.
Will they go away from pool completely? Will they scale back? Will they stop playing in league because it's just not as special anymore? I don't know the answers to that, but that's my concern is it just, to me, it shows a shrinkage that we probably don't need right now.
Not in the higher level players, because
No, not in the higher level players.
Well, no, that's what I mean. You're going to have a shrinkage in the higher league. We need an events that will promote the professional, the semi-pro, the shortstops, whatever you want to call them. But there's some real issues. But it's hard. It's so hard to make a living that the high level players. It's tough when you got like this bar table thing. You got 16 players; they can all win, but only 3 get paid. So.
Right.
Like a zero-sum game,
Yep.
It's pretty tough action. But it's interesting to watch, and all we can do is watch like everybody else and see how it shakes out.
All right, Mark.
Yeah. All right,
Let's talk about the BCA Pool League National Championships.
Okay, well, we're back at the Rio.
And then
July 16th through 26th.
Then just to leave everybody guessing a little bit, after that, we're going to announce 4 more players in our invitationals.
Were you going to let me play?
We'll get to it later. I'm going to leave you on the edge of your seat.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, hopefully I'll fall off before this podcast is over.
I'll give you a gentle nudge.
Yeah. Well, we're back to the Rio. I mean, and it's a great event. Like I say, we're bringing in more bar tables. We have completely changed the complexion of the 9-foot tables. Last year we had, believe it or not, 23 9-foot tables. And can't afford to do that again. But we're only going to have 4 9-foot tables. And 2 of them are for the 16-man invitationals. We have 2 invitationals. We start with the 10-ball and 3-day event. And you can tell them the dates because I don't remember them. And then we have a 3-day break. We're going to do some pro-ams and some challenge matches. And then we have the 8-ball at the end so they'll be playing the 8-ball when the 8-ball teams will be there. And the field is double strong. There's not a bad match there. So we actually have 2 streaming tables. The majority of them will be on one, but we have to have an overflow or we wouldn't get done in time. So.
Yep. And I don't want to beat on the same information that we went over last podcast, but there are a couple key points that I don't think we covered last time, and I'll just hit on. I'll encourage everybody to go to playcsipool.com and get more info, or you can go to playbca.com and get info on the BCA Pool League National Championships. But essentially, a couple key points that I want to hit on tonight is if you are staying at the Rio, which we hope you are, it's much more convenient and it's a fantastic venue. Every room is a suite. Use our group code to book your reservation for a couple reasons. 1, you're going to get a much better rate. 2, you're going to avoid resort fees.
Yep, that's $18 a night.
Resort fees have become very popular out here. I think just about every casino has them now. What a resort fee is, for those of you that don't know, you may see a listing for $39.98 a night at Hotel X, and you think, well, that's a great deal.
That's a great deal.
And then you go and you pay online in some cases, and then you come out, you spend the whole week there, and when you check out, they hit you with a charge of $18 per night. And it fluctuates. Some are 18, some are less, some are more, but it's about 18 a night is pretty reliable charge. And you get hit with this bill at the end that you were totally unaware of. And they say those are the fees to cover things like internet and the pool and
electricity,
all those kind of things.
Yeah, a few years ago, they had an energy surcharge. It was like $4 a night.
Yeah. So if you use our group code, it doesn't even matter to me whether I want you to play in our events, but even if you're not, if you're coming to spectate, whatever the case may be, use our code. You will get a better rate. Yep. Avoid the resort fees. That code is capitals, all caps, SRCUE, and the number 4, SRQ4. Or you can just go to our website, playcsipool.com. You'll see the Rio logo, and right under that it'll say group reservation page. Just click there, book your room right through there, and it'll be taken care of automatically. Second thing, player memberships. We talked about it a little bit.
Yeah. Well, the
in
other
the
thing
past.
though, you might want to say the reason to stay at the Rio though is because you get the free streams.
Oh yeah.
That's huge. You know,
Yep.
it's
Go ahead and tell them.
Okay, well-
Camera's on you.
the camera's on me. Well, we're going to have the CSI. It's the same crew that did the tar feeds forever, so it's nothing. Justin's still on board, as everybody knows, and all the matches with the 16-man invitational on the TV table are done on a pay-per-view. But if you stay in the hotel, you get to watch them for nothing while they're live, and then they loop at night. You know, and you're going to be on TVs around the room. In fact, as you come down the hall, you've got that's like a 20-panel TV panel. It's pretty awesome. And there's some great matches. And if you're involved if you're here on site, you get to watch these things live free. You get to watch them in your hotel room free. And you get to have what I call the loop, the rerun. So and that comes because you stay in the hotel. It's one of the added benefits we try to do. Plus, we have 16 of the top players in the world, and they're all going to they have to give 1 hour lesson, group lesson, per player per day. So it's like 9 days minimum if they
16 hours a day of
yeah
group
times
things.
9.
with
It's
the
like
pros.
150 hours of lessons for free from Shane and I'm afraid to who say because I don't know who you've announced. So I better shut up.
Just don't say.
Some of the best players in the world. I'm not one of them. Damn.
And another point of that, player memberships, if you don't have a BCA pool league in your area, that doesn't mean you can't come participate. You have to be a BCA pool league member to play in the team events, but there are lots of singles and doubles events you can play in even if you're not a league member. And all it takes is for you to purchase a player membership for $25. Lots of singles events. Go to the website, check out the schedule of events. But one I'll hammer on real quick is something we put together called the Triple Play. If you sign up for the Triple Play, you get automatically registered for the 9-ball challenge, the 10-ball challenge, and the Grandmaster 8-ball. 3 events back to back to back. I think it's like 7 total days. And you get a $55 discount off your entry fees if you do the Triple Play option.
And the player membership is not new. That's been around. We took over the league in 2004, 10 years ago.
Yep.
And it was in existence. It hasn't ever been really promoted, but it's a vehicle on how you can, if a person doesn't have a league in their area, how they can still participate.
Yeah, and I'm trying to promote it more because I'm a sample size of one, but when I was in Virginia, there was no BCA. I didn't play in a BCA pool league. There wasn't even one in my area. And if I had known that there were events out here for me to play, I would have probably come. I mean,
and with the fact that your green fees now, you pay your $25 membership, player membership, and you pay your $25 or $35, I guess it is, for a singles event, and then the entry fee into the event, it varies on which event you're in, and you get to play the whole 9 days. You get to play in the minis, you get to practice, you can match up, you can do all kinds of things. So it's pool heaven.
Yep.
It really is.
Yep.
There's about 40 events going on simultaneously. It gets to be a little zoo at times, but all in the name of pool.
Yep.
So.
Well, maybe we should release 4 more names
Why don't you do that before I blurb them out?
before you blurt them out.
Yeah.
All right, the players that we've already announced previously. And again, these are 4 separate groups: North America, Philippines, Europe, and Asia. That'll be debatable, and you'll see why. Names we've released so far include Shane Van Boning, Mike DeShane, Darren Appleton, Ralph Souquet, Francisco Bustamante, Efren Reyes, Pinyi Ko, and I'll let you handle the last one.
No thanks.
Yu Hassan Ching.
Now, he just won the White Diamonds, right?
He did.
He tortured him, I guess, down there.
Yep.
And he's
So-
from Taipei.
We've got 8 left to go. We've already announced 8. We got 8 more to announce. We're going to do 4 tonight. Believe it or not, we have not firmed up
We still
all
have
16
one.
yet. So
Yeah.
it's not trickery, but you want to take a guess on USA? You don't know who it is, do you?
No, I do, but I'm not going to say. I'm going to make somebody else guess. Spit it out, man.
Mr. Corey Dole.
He's done well. He got pretty creative in some of his matches. He won the one pocket, I think, at the Marculis. Or was that Justin Bergman? I think he won it. But Corey's always a threat. I remember when the IPT was around, they asked me who would win the IPT, and I says, if Corey can stay focused, I'd pick him. Because he has more imagination than he's like an American Efren. know.
Well, he was particularly in his younger days, he seemed unstoppable, and then he kind of cooled off for a while. But
Started
now
playing golf. That's why.
it seems like there's a little bit of resurgence
Yeah.
in his game. But
He's always interesting to watch, as long as you don't let him play one pocket. We had a 7-hour final. Thanks, Corey. That's why we don't have one pocket here anymore. No.
we're happy he's included, though. I think it bring a nice touch to the North American side.
Yeah.
Next on the European group, Thorsten Homan.
World reigning 9-ball champion.
No real surprise there.
No, he's got a beautiful game. I mean, he's known for his straight pool game, I think. His high run, I was talking to him one time, he did this when he was like 18 or 17. He ran 414 balls, ran something like 21 racks of either 9-ball or 8-ball. I can't remember. These are on 9-foot and something else, all in like 3 months. It's like he was on fire.
Yeah, he had a super year last year.
Yeah.
But we're glad to have him on board.
Yeah.
So next we'll move on to the Philippines. This might surprise some people.
It might. There's some reasons why, and you can probably explain them a little
Well,
bit.
and I won't go into all the back history, but I will say that some players just simply can't make it.
Scheduling. It's a scheduling conflict.
They have sponsor commitments and commitments to be elsewhere at different times, and so names that we announce does not necessarily mean that we picked any player over another. It's just, hey, we picked the best 16 we could possibly find that could make it to the event. With that said, on the Philippine side, Warren Kiamco.
Still a threat.
Not shabby at all.
No, he's a powerful little player.
Extremely good player.
Yeah.
I like his attitude, too.
Yeah.
My favorite line was when he beat Jason Shaw at the bar table. Jason Shaw had the match won and just made an error at the end. And somebody walked up to Warren and said, "Yeah, you got lucky." He said, "Not lucky. He make mistake."
Yeah. Yeah.
I just thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah.
But we're glad to have Warren on board. And with that, we'll move on to Asia. Take it away, Mark.
Well, I guess you pronounce it Young Lin Chang. Am I
Perhaps.
close?
Young Lin.
Yeah, the problem is we probably know who these people are, but we don't know what they look like by their names. You know, it's because a lot of times they reverse them. Like, is it Pin Yi Ko or is it Ko Pin Yi? I always thought it was Ko Pin Yi. So it's just I don't speak the language.
Hey, we can make the rules as we go, right?
That's right.
Yep.
You bet.
No, Chang is actually, from what I understand, currently the number 2 player in Taiwan. So I don't think he's very widely known in the U.S., but he is an extremely, extremely dangerous player.
Yeah. They all are.
And I can't wait to see some of these Asian guys.
Yeah, we really
do battle with the guys that you and I know real well.
We thought we had a shot of getting Wu here. We really wanted Wu, but in all honesty, he has some issues that we're not going to discuss too much. But he was interested, but he just couldn't make it work this go around. 'Cause I love his game, even though his game is not. It's still not quite where it was, because he quit for a few years with the military thing and changing countries and all this and all that. So.
Hey, we'd like to have Wu, but I can tell you the field that we've got so far.
Yeah.
It's going to be some of the best pool ever.
And this is 10-ball. The 10-ball portion is race to 8.
Yes.
And then 8-ball is also race to 8, I think.
Yes. Yep. So with that, let's talk about seating for all the pro events that we're going to have in July.
Well, yeah, we're changing the whole thing around. We've got some 2 36-foot sections of bleachers coming in to be on each side of the tables, and then we have the arena, CSI arena, and there'll be some seating around that, the VIP seating. So there's comfortable seating for about 400 and some odd people. I think it's 230 on the bleachers.
There'll be lots of seating.
Yeah.
I suspect with the level of play that we're going to have,
the seating might get a little full.
It'll get a little full. We do have VIP seats on sale
limited.
now. It is limited.
There's only 40 in the ground levels, and they're right there.
Just 40 VIP seats, and only 24 of them are going to be front and center for the main table. Yeah. We're going to have a main table and a secondary table.
We'll have the floor plan up on our site probably the next
It's already
week.
there.
Is it there? Even though it's subject to change, but we're moving things a few feet, a few inches.
That one won't change. Not the pro arena,
right,
I don't think.
No.
But on the website, there's a link on playcsipool.com and also on playbca.com that'll get you there. You can purchase VIP seats through the site, through a credit card or PayPal. There's a seating chart, shows you exactly which seat you're going to get. So if you pay,
Right.
that is your seat.
That is your seat.
For
There's
the
none of-
duration.
For the duration. And we're selling seasons tickets, which means you get the 10 ball, you get some of the special events, which Ozzy will bring you up to speed on, and then you get the 8 ball at the end. So it's
Yep.
like 9 days, and it's your seat. And I mean, it's just
So for example, if I went online and purchased seat number 7, which is front and center for the main table, I would get to watch the Kamui Challenge, which we announced 2 weeks ago.
But you can say again, yeah. It's,
Shane Van Boning versus Co.
Yeah.
10 ball race to 21. Then you can watch the entirety of the CSI Invitational 10 ball.
Right.
Then there's going to be 2 days in between the invitational events where we're going to showcase the American
Right.
Rotation National Championship.
Which is the Don Owen was talking about a little bit. That's the Joe Tucker thing, and it would introduce a lot of people to this format and this game. It's a really cool game, and the structure is so great for taking the local players and they can see how they work on see how they stand up on the local level, with an avenue for going into the national level.
well,
and winning money. You know.
and these are going to be the guys that qualified
Right.
throughout the country
Right.
to the national
There'll be
championship.
16
So
players, we think. Will end up
it's going to be high level play.
Yeah.
Also, in those 2 days between the invitational events, July 21 and 22, we're going to do 2 more challenge matches,
Right.
one each day. Participants to be announced, but we're really hoping to get a Scotch doubles match in there and probably another singles match.
Yeah.
So that's the plan for that. And
And
then
these-
we'll pick up after that another 3 days of the CSI Invitational 8 ball.
Yeah.
All of that front and center for your VIP seat.
Right. No, it's pretty. It's got to be a pretty cherished seat. And you know, there's been a little debate on, well, what are these? Are these gambling matches or these exhibitions? That word exhibition gets abused an awful lot. They're getting paid to play. Okay. I mean, when I say get paid, I mean the winner gets more than the loser. I don't mean it's like here's $200, go play a match. That's probably misspoke. It means a lot to them financially. I'm sure that it means a lot more to them pride-wise. And I really get aggravated at these people. Well, it doesn't mean anything because they're not betting $5,000 of their own money. Well, I think you're missing the boat, whoever says those type of things.
Yep.
They're just, these guys are professionals.
Right there is your VIP where you can purchase that.
Oh, thank you, sir. That's Mr. Justin speaking in the background.
That is the page on playbca.com. There's a link on the home page that'll get you here. It explains which matches you'll get to see, depending on which seat you purchase, because there are 2 tables. And just click here for seats, whatever.
Yeah, it's going to be it's
Thanks, Justin.
going to be a really big show, as Ed Sullivan used to say. That was before your time too, wasn't it?
Way, way before my time.
Wow. Okay, you are a kid.
All right. Well, we already kind of hit on the Kamui Challenge.
Well, you talk about it a little bit more, because that one's there's some buzz about that. There's a lot of people say that Copigny, I still see, maybe I said it wrong, but that's what I call him. The only time I went to a WPA meeting and everything was in Germany 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, and he won the junior event over there, World's Junior event. He's a monster. His brother is as good or better than him at that age. And they say his break, a lot of people swear that he will beat Shane. So that's going to be one hell of a match.
I tell you
between
what,
Shane. I have so much faith in Shane's. He just keeps doing it over and over again.
Well,
It's
I mean,
going to be really interesting. You
how
can't
could-
bet against
How
him.
could you not have faith in Shane?
Yeah.
But I tell you what, I'm going to be on the. I've already told you I'm not doing anything during this match except watching. I can't wait to see this one.
Yeah, I think you're going to see you're going to see what people are made out of.
Well, and hey, we get surprised on some matches,
Anything can happen.
but I'll tell you what, Hill would not shock me.
Yeah.
Not on this one. It will be 10 ball race to 21. Winner breaks. How many packages could we see? You never know.
Well, I guess part of that depends on whether that's brand new cloth or not, because this is the opening event. And I'm inclined. We've never discussed this, but I'm inclined to not have new cloth. New cloth is awful slick, and these tables don't have that much wear. They're the tables that came from the One Pocket up in Reno, and so I don't like new cloth. It's just not at that level. I mean, if I'm playing, I love new cloth, but to watch the world's best.
You like the cloth just like you, don't you?
Yeah,
Old and worn out.
Yeah, okay, thanks, buddy. But I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's going to be fantastic.
There was a lot of buzz when we announced it, and it's going to get buzzed up again. Before
And I can tell you what, the 2 other challenge matches that we're going to put together, they're going to be phenomenal too.
Yeah.
They're going to be fantastic. So, as Forrest Gump would say, that's all I have to say about that.
Okay.
How about some general discussion?
I'm game. I'm just going to follow
No,
you.
I don't have an Alaska bullet point on here though.
Oh, well,
All right.
geez. You know,
So if you want to go off on an Alaska rant, just wait until we get off air.
rant, go, yeah.
You can stay here and we'll leave.
Well, I mean, some of these we actually talked on. We touched on added money. Is it effective? Or
Yeah, you know, I'll tell you
it's-
why I got some of these. I got like 3 bullet points in here for general discussion because sometimes we have these interesting debates
At
in
the office. Yeah, because if
And a
somebody
lot-
makes a phone call or who
Yeah,
knows what.
and a lot of them are really philosophical debates
Yep.
on things that
Well, they're different. Yeah, it's different
regard to
opinions.
pool. And I think sometimes it's good to have a little bit of that discussion. so
Well, it
that
makes some of the
everybody-
people think, and it generates comments. They'll pick
Yep.
up the phone. They'll come up, maybe give us a good idea. We get ideas from people. You get them from everywhere, you know.
Yeah. So one of my questions was, and Mark, we can kick it around for a couple minutes. It originated with a conversation that I had on Facebook with somebody. The question is, should pro pool be structured for the player or the spectator? What's best for the game? In other words, do we structure the rules, the format, everything to the benefit of the players? Or do we sacrifice some of that for the benefit of the spectators?
Well,
Right now, I think there's a heavy leaning toward what's best for the players as far as
I don't know.
playing conditions, races, winner break, loser break,
Yeah.
all that kind of thing.
Well, and all the discussion about racking that's the biggest part of the discussion now. And some of those things there's no answers to.
In fact, we got into this debate
Yeah,
today,
earlier, yeah.
and both sides are right. But I think
Yeah.
it's an interesting discussion. What do you think?
Well, I think as far as if this sport ever really wants to get some real traction, you have to cater to the spectator. You know, because if you don't have spectators, you don't have a sport. I mean, can you imagine baseball without 80,000 people paying $45 to buy a seat or whatever they cost now, or cheapy seats? So, you know, unfortunately, I wish it would be more for the player because I believe that there should be a mechanism for the best player to win. But you know, it just doesn't work that way. But the level of play just keeps increasing. I always relate it to Tiger. When Tiger came out, it was him against the field. Now it's not. When Mike Siegel was dominating, he was the Tiger Woods of pool. I mean, if he got to the finals, he wins like 90% of the times. But literally, you could, you know, I'll take him against the field. And you're a 50-50 bet, you know. I don't know where it stands, but the equipment's getting better, the balls are getting better, the cloth's so different, this, that, all the tip technologies. The game is really getting easier. And so I think that it's compressing. You obviously have your elite players, but the distance between the bottom of the elite players and the top of the elite players is much narrower than it could be if you had this the old nappy cloth where you had to power things around and everything like that. So, I mean, I think a bigger thing is what type of equipment should they be playing on? Because by the same thing, where that compresses because of the equipment improvements, table size is probably the biggest factor. I mean, some people are touting, let's play on the 10-foot tables. Fine, go play on your 10-foot tables. I just don't believe it because it's not. I think it's a great measuring stick, but what is it measuring? Nobody gets a chance to play on them. They are more challenging than a 9-foot table, but I'm not sure what it's going to show. So you go to the opposite extreme and say, well, let's go to 7-foot tables. Well, the only thing that I say really, really good about that is, I mean, the most obvious thing is, if you have a tournament, okay, let's say you have a tournament, 5,000 at it, $500 entry fee, and you have it on 9-foot tables, you might get, I don't know, 32 players. Have it on 7-foot tables, you might get 200 players. It just, 90% of the pool is played on 7-foot tables. Now, is there a dominating player on a 7-foot table? I guess you could say Shane is, the events he plays in, but if you had that type of event where you had the Johnny Archers and everybody else playing, I don't think anybody's going to dominate. I mean, it's the format. Is it going to be winner breaks, loser breaks? You might have people running sets if you're playing winner breaks. Now, that's fine. But if you run the set, then I get the opportunity to run the sets. You'd have to manipulate the rules a little bit to give that opportunity. I personally think the more pools around, the more it's going to go to 7-foot tables. And it's just because the market is speaking. You can, the pool rooms are where the 9-footers are, and that's the beauty again of the American rotation and the American Billiard Club. It's all on 9-foot tables. It's all in pool rooms. Because I don't want to see the pool rooms just disappear and the 9-foot tables go away. Because that's what I grew up on. That's pool. Bar table pool to me still isn't really pool, but it's becoming more pool every day.
I think there's been a constant shift in the world, really, to make the game harder, to make it as hard as possible. I mean, I can look back to when I was a kid to now, and there's been this constant trend of make the table tighter, make it bank tougher, make them spit balls out, make it, you know,
deeper shelve. This, that,
yeah, let's go to 10 foot because 9 foot's too easy. And there's been this constant trend, and I think, and I could be totally wrong, but I really think it's by the upper echelon of players. They want to make the game so tough.
You want to take all the luck out.
They want to take, so that the better player will always win. Now that sounds like a noble idea, but think about any other sport where there's no parity, where the guy that perhaps is not quite as good as the champion has zero chance of winning. And pretty soon you don't have a sport.
Correct.
And it's boring. And you go to a tournament and you know before you ever turn on your pay-per-view live stream who's going to win. And to me, I think that's very bad for the game.
You need upsets. Everybody needs to root for the underdog.
And I'm not saying it's at that point to where one guy's always going to win every event. But I think the trend is, let's make it so tough that only this many people can win.
Sure. Let's not play a race to 5. Let's play a race to 55.
I personally think that's bad for the game.
I do. I think we all do.
I don't.
Well, what do you think? Really, you're welcome to comment. What do you think is the?
Let me see if I can get my mic to work. There we go.
Oh, there is a voice in the other room.
I think if you're talking about a pro game, and I'm assuming that's what we're talking
right.
about.
On this level, we're talking about the pro game, I think.
To me, a pro is a guy who can draw money. If a guy can't draw money, if people won't cross the street to watch him play.
You mean draw spectators and be a draw?
Yeah.
Okay.
If a guy, to me, that's because that's the end of the day. That's the only reason. If you can have the best player in the world that plays only in his basement, and nobody will pay to watch him play, what good is that? What does that mean?
For the game, probably very little. But none of the pool players draw any spectators today.
Yeah. Well, I would argue that Efren does. I would argue that Shane does. I would argue Alex does. But at the same time, I think there's. I don't know. I guess I disagree that no matter what you do to the game, because at the highest level, it's not about who plays better pool. It's about who performs under pressure. Because there's a reason why you see, if you look, and I give you the U.S. Open and I let you pick 10 players, you can probably pick the winner. Or you're going to pick a guy that's in the finals at least.
Yeah. You get pretty close, I would assume.
And, because that level is always going to be there, even on bar tables, I think. I mean, if you look at, the U.S. Open the U.S. Bar Table Championships, look at the winners the last 4 years.
It's pretty amazing. When you're playing world champions, the one I remember was Shane. Was it against Kiamko? Who was it against? He beat him 7 flat in alternating break against another world champion.
In the finals.
Whoa, how does that happen? Because everybody says, they're pattern racking. It's a no-brainer. Everybody runs out. Really? Well, he broke 7 times and didn't get out once. The comments of people sometimes amaze me because they're not watching. So, but that's interesting that Justin would say that because
I don't think changing the game is going to make any difference. As far as depending on what you're looking for, you listen to pros and they want to play on 3.5-inch pockets, race to 100, win by 10, because they haven't been playing in pro events. There really are no pro events. This CSI Invitational is going to be this, and what AccuStats is doing right now are really going to be the only two true professional events in the United States. Everything else is just an open event.
Yeah, it's a funny situation.
And the reason I think you hear all the players say they want the 3.5-inch pockets and the long races and the push out, call safe rules and all that kind of stuff is because a shortstop on a good day can beat Shane or can
Yes.
beat
That's
anybody.
That's exactly my point.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if you take it away to our only guys who are proven, a bar to entry, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Mhm.
At that point, if you only have, I think there's 16 people. 16 people in the world is probably maybe even pushing it for people who can draw money. But especially in the United States.
Especially in the United States.
But so to me, I think that's where the program is going to go. And you guys touched on it earlier with the higher entry fees. I love seeing stuff like this bar table with $2,000 entry fees.
I actually do too. I think it's a new era almost.
And
it's
I had a conversation with Greg Sullivan, and we were talking about pie in the sky about a tour, this or that, and having high entry fees. 16 guys, high entry fees, and the subject came up of, well, what about if the entry fee is $2,000? Is anybody going to play? And Greg made a great point. He said, look, if a guy can't get a $2,000 entry fee, he's not a professional player.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can't come up with that to go play in a tournament, then if there ain't somebody out there that believes enough to put $2,000 to put you in a tournament where you might win 15 or 20,000,
Yep.
then you probably ain't got no business playing in that tournament.
It's interesting too. There's some colorful names in that list. There's a couple of names I haven't heard of in 5 years or 10 years. Still capable players, but I don't know.
I tell you what, I go back to Dan Tull's tournaments.
Right.
Who won those tournaments? Shane McMinn won one, and I think he was second
Yeah.
in the other one, with world beaters.
With world beaters. Yep.
Orcolo, Shane, you name them, they were there.
And Justin, I agree with everything you said, with the caveat of I agree if there is a barrier to entry.
Right now, there's not.
Because with
Yeah.
just pure open tournaments where pros are relying on dead money,
Yeah, exactly.
the guys to pay the entry fee that really don't have all that good of a shot of doing anything.
Right.
The tougher you make the game, the more you're going to drive those guys away.
Yep. And that's going to
Absolutely. No,
everything.
I agree
Everything
1,000% with
Yeah.
you there. If you're
Yeah.
relying on dead money, then yeah, you got to keep it kind of where we've always been at.
Right.
But I don't know. What do you guys think is going to happen? Because it's obvious we're seeing a sea change now. The U.S. Open is just
I
the
think-
biggest point of it. But
Yeah.
where does it go from here?
I can't predict what's going to happen at the U.S. Open, but I think it's going to be interesting to see what does happen. And we all wish the best for it. I mean, Barry and I have had we've had go-arounds, but
Well, I think that whole thing was strictly venue driven.
I agree with you.
I think what's going to happen is that these pro events that have historically been large events, open events, will all contract. I mean, we're doing it to some extent.
Yep, we did it
Barry
a lot.
Berman's doing it. I think Alan Hopkins has already done it, right? To
Not
some
really.
extent.
I mean, he changed the way he did things a little bit.
I
But,
think-
mean,
I think-
he shrunk his added money from 25 to 8.
Well,
so,
because of all those factors that we've already talked about, these large open events are going to contract. And I think some of those players, Mark, you call them shortstops, strong players that may be at or close to a pro level, maybe a semi-pro, whatever you want to label it, they're going to be pushed back to the regional tours.
very true.
And honestly,
Don't you think the regional tours will push them out, though?
no. Well,
It depends
know,
how
it-
dominating they are. It gets to be.
it
really
depends.
gets to it. It's an issue.
It depends.
It could
Like
be an issue.
every regional tour is different. If you're like Shannon Dalton's tour, yeah, you may want to push those guys away because he's going after. It's a handicap tour, so he's going after the low-level players. If it's the Action Pool Tour, plug, absolutely not. That's what we want.
Yeah.
I would love to get pros because the audience that we cater to and the people we attract to play those guys for $50, $60.
See, that's what
Give me
people are
a
missing
break.
anymore. That's guys my speed. That's what we go. That's why we go. And it's but so many people they want to have the nuts before they chalk.
I think there's a place for it really does suck that the U.S. Open is not going to be the wide open thing that it was. 256 players. You could go there and pay your $500 and take a shot. That's sad to see that tournament go that way, but at the same time, I think that model is just toxic. If that's what every tournament has got to be, where you got to have 150 guys coming in to donate,
Yeah.
or else you can't have an event. It's one tournament a year is cool, but that's the way the model has been for the last 10 years.
The model is broken. It really is. We need to move on because we've got a little ground to cover, and we're almost pushing the 1 hour
Yep,
break. So
yep. So let's go ahead and move on to questions that we got from AZ Billiards forums.
Yep.
The first one was directed at me, so I guess I'll take it.
take it.
It's from Jam. Ozzy, how does your family like the Vegas environment? We love it. Much better than Virginia. Go ahead, Mark. Well, he hasn't seen summer yet. I know it's coming.
You're talking about oysters?
No,
you
no,
can
no, no.
fry oysters out here.
And this is in response to some pictures. I posted on Facebook some pictures of the little town that I grew up in. I grew up in a little town called Oyster, Virginia. Had a population of maybe 60. I'm not joking. Little fish until. So I kind of broke the mold there and ended up next to Mark Griffin. I don't know who won or lost, but she says it's quite different than the serene locale of Oyster, Virginia. Oyster looks gorgeous, while Vegas seems like a busy metropolis. They are quite opposite. Yes, they are quite opposite. Spent, 35 now. I guess it's about equal. 50% of my life in Oyster, Virginia, and the other 50% in metropolis
Yeah.
places. But I love it here. Love the weather. Love.
It's interesting city.
It's actually a very, very easy city to move around in.
Yeah.
I'm actually surprised. You can go from one end to the other really quick. Newport News was just a traffic nightmare, but it's actually much better here. Mark, you want to take the next one?
What are we at? Okay, for CSI events, with the recent professional pool exhibitions being invitationals, do you provide the rules beforehand? I've seen some players commit fouls because either they did not familiarize themselves with the rules or the rules were not given to them. I think that everybody that's been invited already has the rules. We're pretty professional, and we have players meetings, and everybody gets educated on what they have the opportunity to read the rules. We're not playing too many funny games anyhow. It's pretty straightforward. Well, no, I mean, we're straightforward. The rules, and we're consistent. We have a referee on hand. We are having some discussions on the racking and situations like that. But
Why don't you go ahead and take the next question, because that kind of dovetails right in.
What do you think about a neutral racker for pro invitationals? Well, I want to back up first, though, because Jam did say, for CSI events, with the recent professional pool exhibitions being invitationals. These aren't exhibitions. These are tournaments. I don't like the word exhibitions being used in any of these things we're doing, even the one-on-one challenge matches. They're a for real challenge match.
Yeah, and not only are the players getting paid, but the winner is going to get paid more than the loser.
Yeah, and besides the bragging rights and everything else, because they all know that there's going to be a lot of side action going on these. There's not,
Well, that's one of my biggest pet peeves.
We've had that all the time.
On earth.
Yeah.
Is people talk about the pros should get paid to play. The pros should get paid to play because they're the best. They should get money to play. Right. Then you put something together like what Tar did, or the challenge matches like we're doing here. And I saw when the Co and Shane match was announced on Facebook. People, they were talking, oh, these guys should play. These guys should play. Okay, these guys are going to play. Oh, well, this is just some goofy exhibition thing or whatever.
It doesn't mean anything. Yeah,
right. It's like, well, hey, here's the thing. If you want these guys to go play in some smoke-filled rat hole somewhere, and because you have some idea that that's real pool, guess what? They're not going to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, it just, those days are gone, man.
This is going to be one of the most anticipated matches.
Well,
this is really, this one's going to be.
I don't want to beat on this too much, but it comes down to something that's frustrated me forever is people feel like they need to know every single detail of everything.
So
they want to know, how much is the guy making? Where does he live? How much is his electric bill? I mean, I'm being facetious, but it really is. It gets to the point of absurdity. Does anybody know how much money the defensive tackle for Seattle Seahawks made last year for the Super Bowl? No,
I don't even know
nobody
his name.
cares.
Yeah, right. So,
and why they care in pool is just completely beyond me.
Yeah. Anyhow, getting back to, what do you think about a neutral racker for the pro invitationals? Rack rigging seems to be an ongoing problem, whether you're the breaker or the racker. Would like to hear your thoughts on this. In bowling, the bowlers don't rack the pins. I think in pool, there should be neutral rackers. We had a pretty good discussion on this today. Under normal circumstances, you can't even consider it. Last year we had 16, well, counting the TV, 17 tournament tables. That means you would need 17 rackers, or at least 8.5 rackers. You know, if you gave them 2 tables each. You can't. How do you get the consistency? How do you guarantee the quality of the product? This event is a little unique. We only have 2 tables in play, and only probably 60% of the matches are going to be played on one table, and maybe 40% on the other. It gives us the opportunity to have a neutral racker, and we're giving it serious thought. And we're doing. That's one of the things we were talking about today is the MC's responsibilities, the referee, whether we use 1 or 2, and what type of racking situation do we have.
Yep. Had a very good discussion on that in the office.
There'll be some announcements coming up, and we're I would have to say it right now. I bet you it's neutral rackers winning the debate, because this is the unique. It's the first opportunity we've ever had to do that, other than say a tar match.
Mm-hmm.
You know. Because rack rigging is becoming an issue. And
Well, it's just the specter of rack rigging, whether it happens or not, and I think it happens way less than people
I agree. I don't
think
even
it
like
does.
the term rack rigging, but you know, these guys are professionals. They hit the same way. You know, Shane or Alex or Dennis or any of those guys, they can hit that ball like exactly the same 50 times in a row, and so they get the consistency down. So they
Well,
can
and the
predict
other thing
things,
is
you know?
what people forget about is, they'll remember when a guy, runs a 5 or a 6 and he looks
Yeah.
dominant, but they'll forget the other 80% of the time where, he might run a rack, but then he breaks dry or he scratches or he just
blows the cue ball off the table. Or,
Yeah.
there's all kinds of things that.
It's
Very one-sided memories. Selective memories.
There's a lot of that, and I think also we had this discussion today. I think a lot of this debate is being driven by the vocal minority, and some of the vocal minority don't really know what they're talking about.
They don't. They
But
come, yeah, they
and so then you spend a lot of time reacting to that,
Yeah.
and it snowballs, and it's really a lot bigger issue, I think, than what it really is, which is why I'm firmly in the camp of we should have neutral rackers for this because it's doable, and if nothing else, let's see what happens. Because I tell you right now, same guys are going to win.
Yeah, it's interesting because some of the comments that people make that well, you can't allow pattern racking. Well, that's pretty interesting. What the heck is pattern racking? You already say the 1 ball is going to be in front, the 9 ball is going to be in the center, or in 10 ball, the 2 and the 3, and the 10 in the
If
middle.
40% of something are in the same place every time, would you
by
call that a
definition,
pattern?
It's pattern racking. And then the one that really cracks me up is not this last year, but the year before, Dennis Orculo shot tremendous in the finals. And he did run a 6-pack, 7-pack, something like that. I think he played Jason Shaw. And everybody says, well, he just pattern racked, did the same thing every time. And I think, well, why doesn't everybody else do the same thing? Nobody else could do it. There's some skill there, and these people are so fast to criticize. If it's so damn easy, go out and do it yourself. Yeah. It really, it's wrong. They're just not even realistic. Anyhow, the next question from Jam is, Mark, how did you and Ozzy hook up? Well,
Hook up.
We've never hooked up.
What are we, a
Well, let's
couple
set
now?
this straight. Actually,
I got to find a better looking date than that.
yeah, well, I'm experienced.
It's a synonym for old, isn't it?
Yeah, you're right. Ozzy was doing his tour out there on the East Coast, and we started a conversation on magic ball racks about 3-4 years ago, and this led to that. And we talked. And he called one time. He was asking about trying to do a tournament in one of the casinos, and then I don't know, for some reason I'm not really a Facebook fan, but he had a post on Facebook that says, "I want a job in Las Vegas," or something like that. And
Well,
I called him.
I said, I'm thinking about moving to Las Vegas.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, yeah.
Guerrilla marketing, nicely done.
So that's how it happened, and actually we're pretty happy with him so far. But he'll screw up pretty soon. We know that.
I got a lot of time to mess up.
Yeah, well, not that much. I'm old. So that's how that one came, and so then.
All right, I want to take this next one.
Yeah,
This is funny.
yeah, it was funny.
From Bella Don't Cry. Now, this was on the thread for CSI Podcast number 3. This is all that was on there. How come the question I submitted wasn't answered during your previous podcast?
What was the question? I don't know. I know.
So at first I just skimmed right by that, but I got curious. So I went back to the other one, and it actually I think was all the way back on number 1. I'm going to read the question. verbatim.
Dying to hear this.
Has CSI ever considered the need to set up a professional American pool business for promoters academy in the same way that sees other developing American pro player academies around the country? To oversee the management of such a project to ensure that innovative, creative, future thinkers are sought and brought into an enriched environment of learning to further enhance their business skills and develop the business end of pool not only in America, but worldwide. And if not, why not? Well, that's
You have
why
10
we
seconds
didn't.
to answer that.
That's exactly why we didn't address it, because I don't know
That's not
what
even
the question is.
Sounds
Well-
to me like what they're looking at is almost like a business.
They
like
want a
a-
think tank
I
funded by
think-
GM
yeah,
or
exactly,
Coca-Cola
exactly.
or maybe
Yep.
Nike or something.
So here's the deal on questions, folks. If I can't make sense of what it is, we're just going to move on to the next one.
That's right.
But you know what? That's out. That's left field. Okay, but I do think that this industry does have a nasty habit of eating its own
Oh, it does.
instead of nurturing
Yeah.
and trying. But at the same time, it's difficult because you nurture somebody and they turn around and they try to cut your legs out from under you. So and after that happens 2 or 3 times, makes you not want to nurture so much anymore.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the answer is. Perfect world, I guess. There would be something like that.
This one was interesting, Kid Dynamite. In a previous podcast, you mentioned working on cross-marketing efforts. I would love to see some record-breaking numbers on the stream this year. So would we. Has the 250,000 members received an email advertising the stream? Something to your members with dates and times and an agenda.
Who's got 250,000 members?
Yeah, I'm not. I think you're talking about Brand X. No, APA. They say they have 250,000. They may not. I don't. It's their business, not ours. We do promotions with our member base, and we, I think most people, the pool world knows kind of what we're doing. Unfortunately, we do need to get outside the pool world, but it's so hard because the income stream, the revenue is pretty restricted. But that's an ongoing problem with the
Well,
pool
I have
industry.
a little take on it too, and I'd like to see this change at some point, and I think that it can. But right now, yeah, all of our members know what we're doing. We widely publicize it. The problem is that most of those members are amateur pool league players that don't care.
There's a lot of truth to that. They don't
If we
care.
could get them to
Yeah.
care, then the equation would change.
Yeah.
But right now, advertising it to 250,000 members kind of doesn't matter.
And that's the unfortunate trickery of this industry. I've always felt that the amateurs and the pros should be pushing and pulling in the same direction. And it's amazing that the pros don't really care about the amateurs and the amateurs don't care about the pros. And that's not a healthy answer.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why I think you're seeing things gravitate towards 7-foot tables.
Yeah.
The amateurs don't play on 9-foot tables anymore. I mean, they're just all on, by and large. So
I'd like to do this next one.
you can have it.
Have you decided to stream some of the professional training sessions for those that can't be present? It would be nice to see Efren Reyes and Shane Van Boning question and answer group sessions. Not all of your members win a trip to the playoffs, and offering them access to these sessions via the stream is a real nice touch. All right, couple comments there. One, we are working to get content up on the CSI YouTube channel that will be very valuable to our members and anybody that cares to watch. The problem with what you propose there is that we have these very, very nice, valuable features at our event, and we want that to be a reason to come to our event.
This is what separates us from everybody else.
If we
yeah.
simply just film it, release it to the world, it no longer is a tool to incentivize people to come to our event and defeats the whole purpose. Everybody can just simply stay home and we'll eat the full cost of the tournament, not have any participants, and away we go. And that doesn't really work. So the reason we wouldn't do anything like that is because it then defeats the whole purpose of having these special things at the event. We want to encourage participation and attendance.
But by the same token, I'm sure it'll be the commentators will mention that we're doing things here, and you should try to make a point to come here next year and watch the free lessons and this on the streams.
Absolutely, yeah. But
Well, here's the thing about the streams, and this is the trap. We're doing pay-per-view.
Right.
So when you're talking, you're preaching to the converted.
Correct. You're singing to the choir.
Yeah. So
It's hard to get out of that box.
Right. So to me, it's like if that's the model we're on, is the pay-per-view. So doing stuff like that it's not going to have any effect, and it's going to take away from maybe doing other things that add value to the people who do buy in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's a good point, but it's a double-edged sword, and it's one of these days maybe we'll get a Coca-Cola coming in and underwrite one of these things, and then we'll get some big numbers. Unfortunately, the pay-per-view model, and TAR's the biggest example of that, just didn't work. You know, with a fixed.
Well, I disagree, because if it doesn't work, why are you doing pay-per-view for CSI events?
I was going to say in a fixed venue where it can't overcome the nut.
Well, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, if you look, all streaming is going to pay-per-view. Everything. All these streamers that said, everything should always be free. Go look around. They're all doing pay-per-view of some way, shape, or form, because there's just no numbers.
Right.
I mean, there's just,
the numbers.
If you got 10,000 people to watch, which would be 5 times the greatest amount ever done since I've been in this business, and you went to any outside industry sponsor, they'd look at you like you had 2 heads.
Yeah.
What's 10,000 people? That's nothing.
Yeah.
You know, you get 10,000 people doing a local ad on a late night television show on a rerun of a sitcom.
You can get better exposure with a yard sale sign.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
So
it's quite a situation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Members feedback back and surveys. What does your members think about pro training sessions and other value-added initiatives not offered at your competitors' league? E-surveys can be used and implemented. We do surveys, and I agree with your statements. They can be. We do believe in value-added. I look at it. I mean, I like to present a lot of opportunities for the amateur players to improve their game through, you can call them seminars or what you want to call them, but it's watching better players play. That's why we've always tried to have the pros there so you can watch them. And now it's free, and there's no excuse for not watching, because if you watch an Efren Reyes or Bustamante or a Shane play for 15 or 20 minutes, you're going to learn something,
But I mean, on the amateur level,
But a lot of them don't care.
that's where I'm squarely come down in that camp, that it's a participatory thing. There's guys out there. We all know players that have played for 20 years that haven't gotten a ball better.
Correct.
And they don't care.
And they don't care.
Because they have fun.
Yeah.
And it's a social thing. And to me, I feel like, a lot of people, CSI in some cases, TAR especially, kind of tried to fight against the stream and push the pro side of it. And I think there's a place for the pro game, always will be. But to me, it's like, there's enough blood on the wall from bashing your head into it.
Yeah.
Let's just do what,
Okay.
Why fight it?
You can take the next one and we'll move along.
Let's move on down to the Wizard.
Okay.
I'll read it, and I'll let you go.
Okay.
And if I need to hold your mouth, I will.
Okay. my foot will fill it nicely, I'm sure.
Do you have a foot left? With the current problems
But I have a left foot.
Yeah. With the current problems with pool in the U.S., do you guys think the BCA
And that's the Billiard Congress of America. that
is
they're
doing enough to govern and promote CueSports in America, or is it time for the BCA to go and for a new, functional, and willing governing body to replace it?
Well, that's obviously not our job. I mean, it's not up to us. The BCA is the governing body of pool, and that's through their relationship with the WPA, and they've had it since, well, the WPA got formed in like late 70s or mid 80s or something, I don't know. I think the BCA is trying to step it up. They went through some pretty tough times, as did everybody. I think they made some huge errors. And I've said it before, the biggest error they made was selling the leagues. I was never in favor of them selling the leagues. I bought them to try to keep something together because I thought that there was value in leagues for the pool and the American scene. I've had some discussions with them. I know they're trying to improve their situation. I still don't think they're doing enough. And by design, they've got industry leaders, but they're manufacturers, and some of them they're like the amateur players somewhat. They don't have any of the history. They don't know. They don't understand what it's all about. And for whatever that's worth, we'll see how I go this year. But they were looking for people to run for office again, and I threw my name up there. They wouldn't let me run last time, but we'll see. Maybe I've made believers out of them.
There's no age limit.
No age limit. Well, it's interesting. There's some interesting history between us and them. I did have to go to court one time to straighten things out. But that's ancient history. All we're trying to do is get what's better for pool.
I think
So-
eventually, this seems like a pipe dream, but eventually there's got to be some entity that gets formed, steps up, whatever the case may be, that truly does govern pool. And by that I would mean from amateur leagues all the way up
From
to
birth to death. Yeah.
elite pros.
Yep, I agree. Has to be one continuous organization.
Yep, and everybody has to support it, charge together to get it done. Right now, there's just way too much tribalism.
Yeah, but we're the closest thing in the U.S. to fulfill that model. I mean, the BCA doesn't have any leagues; they don't have anything, and that's their problem. They shucked their most important
Well, I mean,
asset.
could CSI forge that path at some point?
Yeah.
Sure. Right now, that's certainly not.
It's not our goal.
That's not our mission right now. So.
No. So
I'm going to skip 11 because we've already talked about it. It's about referees.
okay.
Here's a good one that we've talked about briefly.
We did.
Will CSI be looking to have larger scale tournaments in other venues throughout other cities in the U.S., such as Chicago, Oklahoma, New York, Pittsburgh, St. Louis, Tampa, etc.?
Well, I can tell you a couple we won't do. Chicago, unions will kill you.
Jersey?
Jersey, yeah. New York City, I'm sure it's just so expensive. And what was the term? Larger scale tournaments. I'm not sure what you call larger scale tournaments, but we got 320 pool tables. And it's not larger, it's largest. And there's not very many places we can park. And you can't do them at convention centers because then people want to be in the hotel. You know, convention centers, they're great for trade shows, but they don't work too well for pool tournaments. Vegas is probably one of the, there's probably other places, but basically Vegas is the place we need to be for this big tournament. I am in favor of doing regionals, maybe a new type of thing, maybe the East Coast tournaments and the West Coast tournaments and things like that, and making, or the U.S. Bar Table Championship, even moving it around. And somebody came up with an idea of moving that, and we may have to, just have other issues and put it in the heartland, you know,
Well,
Ohio.
I think what this guy was getting at is actually something that I've thought about. Is if an entity like us, the CSI, have multiple events every year, all over the country. You know, like you used to have BCA points for different events. Maybe each CSI point
Sure.
event.
But you understand they have to be bar tables. That's the only thing you
Well,
can
I
move
mean,
around.
you know, we can debate all the details.
Well, it's because the rest of the discussion was to bring back and maintain a U.S. National Pool Tour, Pro Tours. I'm sorry. It only works to do 7-foot tables. You're not going to get me to haul 9-foot tables very far. You only get 16, maybe 20 on a truck. Depends if you need anything else. And it's a buck a mile to get them there. Not counting putting them in, hanging lights, doing this, and without any sponsorship. It all boils down to sponsorship. You know, right now we have to fund this all out of participation, and it's a tough nut. So
Well, and you won't get sponsorship until you get spectators, which goes back to the question.
yeah, 7s or 9s
That
too. A lot of questions. So.
Yep.
But I conceptually, more and more we're open to doing some high exposure events in different locales.
You want to know the secret? You want to know the answer?
Yeah,
Fixes
tell me the answer.
everything?
Yeah.
USA Pool League.
Well, the USA Pool League, that's one of our it's a sister league to the BCA Pool League, and it does have the most potential to solve a lot of the pool problems of this country, and we're promoting it still. It's doing nicely. It's just not. I would love to have it have 30,000 members.
Well, I can tell you, I've only been here for a little over 2 months, but the USA Pool League is going to be a major, major focus of my efforts in the near future. Justin, you're exactly right that the USA Pool League has more potential to
change the landscape. It
well,
does.
change. You know, this sounds kind of crazy, but change the industry in a more positive direction. So you'll be hearing more about that from us in the future. But if you want more information, go to playusapool.com.
And just call the office. And we're not going to give you a whole bunch of things, but it's a very viable opportunity for somebody who wants to be in the pool industry. So,
Take the last one.
is it possible for a pool room outside the U.S. to join the American Billiard Club League? And if so, Would there be some form of funding to help with travel costs for the 2 qualifying players to attend and compete in the finals of the American Rotation League? Well, part A, yes, it's possible for a pool room outside the U.S. to join the American Billiard Club. Joe Tucker's got 1 or 2 rooms, or 1 or 2 regions, Toronto and somewhere else, so it'd be 4 rooms, in Canada. And but there's no plans to help in funding the travel costs, because where does it come from? 90% of the money in the American Pool League goes back in prize fund. There's nothing left to be creating travel funds. You're on your own. Do bake sales. Do whatever you have to do. And to get the people, to get your room qualifiers to the regionals, and they get a small amount, a couple $100. Now, if they get from the regionals to the nationals, they get all expenses paid. So, so I helped you halfway, and I didn't help you the other half. But we can't fund everything. We're a small company. When all these added money and all these expenses, they come out of our pocket. And unfortunately, we have a shrinking market too, and our expenses go up every year. So we're fighting it's a beast out there right now, and it's tough. It's a very tough action.
Well, even if we could fund those things, I mean, at some point you have to make a business decision. You got to look at every aspect you do. Does this add value? And if not, you don't do it.
Yep. Agreed.
So to start the American Billiard Club and then lose money to help people get here, you're defeating the entire purpose.
Well, let's see if the pool players of America embrace the American Billiard Club. I think it's the greatest thing since sliced bread as far as a concept. For the better players or the person that really wants to learn, you play. There's only 8 people in a location. It has to be 8, and you can have one. I mean, location could have more than one night type of thing. But it needs participation. It needs 8 players that will support it. They have to play 7 weeks. It's a very short session. They have to make a commitment. It's so flexible. You can play any day you want. Right now it's $25. I think we're going to change some things. There might be a $20. It might go to a $20. Change the payout structure a little bit, where you can 2 rooms make a region. They play off. They send a player to the regionals and to from that to the nationals. It's a very valid, solid platform. It's self-supporting with almost minimal participation. But if we can't get the minimal participation, it'll be just another idea that was a great idea. But it's up to the pool players to support it, and the pool rooms, because it's all in pool rooms. It's only on 9-foot tables. There's just so many things that, and the players are just not getting it.
Well, here's
unfortunate.
Here's the beauty of it, and I'll try to make this brief. But Justin and I were talking about this the other day. I think a lot of people are confused, and we're going to do a better job of explaining exactly what CSI is and does in the very near future. But Justin made a great point. He says, you guys got all these leagues and things going. Who can keep track of it? When you actually explain it to somebody, though, it's a beautiful compliment, in my opinion. You have the BCA Pool League, which we are a sanctioning body.
Right.
All right, so we will sanction your independent local league. And it could be big or it could be small. Right. But it's your league,
could be
your
8 ball,
format,
9 ball, 10 ball, 3 ball.
Your rules, whatever. However you want to structure your local league, you can sanction with the BCA Pool League and be eligible for your players to come out and compete in the national championships. USA Pool League, completely different. Everything is structured. The entry fees are structured. The handicapping system is uniform throughout. Everybody plays by the same rules. It is a soup to nuts structure, really from beginning to end. So it's much, much different than the BCA Pool League.
Sure, it's match play
and they really go after a different market. Yeah. So they complement each other. And then you have the American Billiard Club, which is completely individual competition, which was great for a guy like me when I was in Virginia, that I really didn't care for team competition. Personal preference. But American Billiard Club offered me a great opportunity to compete head-to-head with good players in my area. And it's sort of a league-type format, but you're not making a huge 16-week commitment.
Right.
So those 3 things really, really complement each other well, in my opinion. We just need to do a much, much better job of explaining what the heck they are.
Yeah, you're right.
We bothering you, Mark?
No, I'm supposed to be somewhere. We're running late. We've been talking too much.
Oh, you're
Folks,
4
do you see-
minutes away
do
from
you,
from
do
a
you
half
see
hour.
why it's hard for me to hold a conversation with this guy?
Well, I'm a busy boy. I'm not going to be here much longer. I got to get things done.
Justin, can I tell them about the little conversation you had with Mark?
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
Yeah, Mark's looking at the screen and he says, "Why am I inverted?" Justin said, "Haven't you ever looked in a mirror before?"
You could see the wheels turning, where he had to think about it and go, That's funny.
Well,
Whatever.
Justin, Mark, you got anything else to add?
No,
before we leave?
no. I appreciate Don coming by, and there's a lot going. There's always things going on. It seems like there's nothing going on at times, and but there is, and there's a lot of things going on that we really don't feel are proper to discuss too. That are changing the marketplace. A lot of them come known later, and some never become known. But we do appreciate everybody's support. You have questions, pick up the phone, call us, email us, do something, send money, show up at tournaments. I mean, we're here to try to make the game better. It's pretty tough. We're not going to agree with everybody. We don't expect to. We don't want to. We're just trying to provide a product that people will buy into. And when it's all over and done with, we might think we have the best thing in the world, but if people don't support it, it obviously wasn't the best thing in the world. So it is.
Anything to add, Justin?
No,
You
I'm
get
good.
7. Isn't that what you, who said? Last week you said, do I, what?
No, that was actually really slick. I like that.
That was great.
funny.
Yeah.
I missed it.
I said, well, last thing I have to say, Mark, you got the 7.
Okay. I didn't crack a rib, but I bruised a rib. So have you ever seen a guy on oxygen that can't breathe? Well, can't breathe deep either. I know, it's tough
Folks,
action.
we'll be back in 2 weeks. Thursday night, April. I don't know what.
It won't be April.
No, it won't be April anymore.
It'll
the
be
fir-
like
it'll
the
be
first or
34th.
2 weeks from
April
tonight.
34th.
Yeah.
No, 31st. Actually, no, it'll be April
34th.
31st.
You said I was the head of accounting, right?
Yeah.
2 weeks from tonight, 9 o'clock Eastern, 6 Pacific. I got my math right that time.
Good, Jim. That's good.
Good night, everybody.
Yeah, thank you very much. We'll talk to you later.